Yeah, this guy again, right? Welcome back, or welcome to the channel, whichever applies. Here at Landshark Movie Reviews. Brilliant name, I know, right? Just genius. Genius to your name. No sarcasm, obviously. What we do is we watch a film and we sit down in this here old busted-ass computer chair and just talk about it spur of the moment. No prep, nothing like that. One take. If I sound like an idiot, I sound like an idiot. That's just part of the natural and raw approach that I am aiming for in these reviews. So that being said, if that's your thing, cool. If it's not, thanks for watching up until now. I appreciate it. Feel free to leave. I don't blame you at all. So I'll give you a spoiler warning because in these reviews I do give a breakdown of the film itself, meaning plot points from the beginning to the ending. So if you don't want that spoiled, you can skip ahead on the little timestamp thing to where it says thoughts or rating, whichever. As long as it doesn't say in spoilers brackets, then you're good to go. So, Y2K. I was there. I remember it. I'm ancient. I was born before the internet was used widely, so you can't tell from the crow's feet in my eyes here. I'm ancient. I'm older than the oldest of old, as they say. But anyway, yeah, Y2K. So basically, this is a sort of very satirical what if. Obviously, history dictates now that literally nothing happened during Y2K. We went from 1999 to 2000 with literally no issues. We'll talk about that later, my thoughts of Y2K and everything, because that's an interesting rabbit hole to go down to. But let's get right into the nitty-gritty. So, the story. We start out with some nostalgic stuff. We got AOL and dial-up. Now, I never used AOL. I used MSN Messenger, so... and very briefly ICQ. So I never used AOL Messenger, but that was like a huge thing. I was just, a hipster kind of using the not as mainstream chat things, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, we have that. We have clips of Bill Clinton talking about preparations for Y2K. Everything should be good to go. We're groovy. We meet our first two characters through chat. So Eli, who's sort of our main character, I guess, for this film, talking to Laura, the girl that he has sweetheart crushy feelings for, so that's delightful. And basically they're talking about New Year's. I mean, Y2K, it's a big thing, right? Turning from the 90s to the 2000s. Major thing. In real life, even though nothing was going to happen, and we all kind of knew that, it's still a big deal. You're going from 199 to 200, and then whatever number follows. So yeah, big deal. Anyway, New Year's celebration plans. Parents are talking to him about New Year's Eve, like, be good and whatever, and he just heads to his buddy's Danny's. That's the plan, essentially, is to just hang out at Danny's. And Danny's even, like, ready to, to do fuck all tonight and all that stuff, and they're talking about hookups and stuff, and how he got this thing with Laura and all that, and there's a thing where we hear that Limp Bizkit is headlighting a New Year's Eve bash or something somewhere nearby and all that stuff. So they head to the movie store to get some stuff for the evening, where they run into this gentleman by the name of Garrett, who's kind of like a hipster dude who smokes a joint with them, and they start tripping a little bit and all that stuff. And Garrett's rambling on about a bunch of stuff. It's basically just establishing the character of Garrett and the other party. So there's a party at an old warehouse or factory or whatever it is at some place. So he says, if you guys are up to it, come on down. And they're like, okay, well, probably not, but sure. They're planning on just hanging out and having a chill evening, and which is totally cool too, in all honesty. Like, not everyone's a party animal, right? Anyway, there's a bully encounter outside, and you always gotta have bullies, right? So Eli is basically built up as not the coolest kid in the world. Like, he's just not a cool kid. I don't know how else to put it nicely. We don't even really establish why exactly he's not a cool kid. He just isn't a cool kid. He's, thin, kind of basic haircut. I don't know what the whole deal is. But anyway, he's bullied. These bullies do, like, a really shitty rap. And, yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, just outside the store, and then they head into another store to get snacks, I guess, for the night. Doritos, Surge. What else was around back then? Cherry Coke's still around in the States. Well, it's still around in Canada, too. I don't know. Whatever kind of fun... Surge. There you go. That's your nostalgia bait there. I don't think Surge exists anymore. So they go to get snacks, and lo and behold, Laura and her entourage is in there. So obviously Danny shoves Eli, go talk to her. And they make small talk, and she's like, yeah, we're, you know, there's a big party at Chris's tonight. We're going to go. And Chris had been earlier established as her boyfriend. And he's like, oh, yeah, Chris, eh? And she's like, yeah, well, we actually broke up. So he's like, hell yeah. Not that that means he's instantly in or anything, but at least, you know, she's not off the market, right? So that's delightful. Anyway, her friends end up stealing a bunch of booze and they bolt out before there's any kind of meaningful conversation. All they know is that there's a party at Chris's place now. So that's, they got two other options, basically. Anyway, they're chilling back at home and they're talking about, should we hang out here or should we party? And Danny's basically telling Eli, like, dude, you're kind of just, like, dull. Like, let's go do something fun, you know? And he's like, I don't know. And he's basically calling on and saying, look, you never want to do anything. He's, you know what? Let's do something. And he breaks the alcohol lock or whatever, and they start chugging booze and all that. And I guess that gets his motivation to go do something a little bit more fun up. So they decide to go to the party. And what convinces him is Danny saying, you got a chance, you could maybe kiss Laura. And he's like, okay, fine. All right, I'm in. That sells him essentially. So we get to the party and he brings like this little Y2K mix CD with him, and the main CD at the party I guess was burned shittily, so it skips, and so he puts on his Y2K mix and everyone's all great about it and they're dancing around to like the thong song and stuff, so that's a hit. He ends up chatting with Laura and then about Chris and whatever, and then Chris enters and puts his arm around Laura, so I guess they're kind of a thing, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, Chris pulls Eli aside and says, hey, do you like Laura? And he's just quiet. He's like, don't fucking try for her, bud. Basically, like, you even make a move and I will kill you, essentially. So that's not ideal, but anyway. He gets in an argument with Danny, too, because Danny tells some story about him pissing in a Coke and then Eli drinking it by accident or something like that, and everyone's calling him like pee drink or whatever the hell it is. So he gets in a fight with him and he storms off, and there's a countdown going on and everyone's having kind of a good time except for poor Eli. He feels like everything's kind of gone downhill, right? I mean, his girl that he likes is, I guess, back with the boyfriend. He just got in a fight with his buddy there. Everyone thinks he drinks pee now, so he can't win, right? So he goes to find Laura, and she and Chris are there, and they do the countdown, and there's a New Year's smooch when they get to 0, and Eli's all sad, and, well, that's unfortunate. And then power cuts out, and of course one guy yells, Y2K is real, and they all laugh, and the lights go back on, and then you hear screaming upstairs. And they run up the stairs, and there's a kid lying on the ground dead with a chunk of ceiling fan in his head. And the girl that was, I guess, getting it on with him is like, the bed did it. So they have like an electric bed, I guess, and it like launched him at the ceiling fan or something, and they're like, okay. Anyway, in comes a little Power Wheels vehicle with like a computer monitor on it. Everyone's like, what the hell is going on here? They're obviously still concerned, like, oh my god, there's a dead person here. Anyway, Power Wheels comes in, ends up has little arms attached to it and a monitor, and it holds up hairspray to a guy, and he's like, I use mousse, dude. And then he pulls a lighter, and so his face goes on fire, kills that kid by fire. Basically, yeah, there's a bunch of things like that. So panic ensues, obviously, and there's more kills and stuff. So like one guy's getting sliced apart by a shaver. Another girl gets killed by blunt trauma force in the back of the head because a VCR launches out a VHS tape to hit her in the head. There's a guy with his dick in a blender for some reason, so that's good. There's another guy who gets his arm ripped off by a garburator, or to American people, garbage disposal. We call it a garburator in Canada, whatever. Anyway, same thing. So he gets his hand ripped off. What else? Was that all the major kills, I think, right? Yeah, I think so. Anyway. So Laura, Eli, Danny are together at this point, and Chris runs into them, and Chris is like, Laura is like, we gotta find Raleigh, who's her friend, I guess. We see her very briefly in a scene in the movie, but she's not really important, so whatever. It's like, we gotta find Raleigh, my buddy, like, my ride and die. And Chris is like, no, we gotta leave now. She's like, no, we have to find her. He's like, okay, you can stay here and die with these losers. And then he turns and immediately proceeds to trip over a dishwasher door that lowers itself strategically, and his head goes into a microwave, and the microwave kills him by nuking his head. Well, not nuking, there's no radiation, but you know what I mean. Heating up his head to death. So Chris died. Huge loss for society, definitely. Anyway, they are in the garage at this point, and Laura has a theory that basically it's Skynet minus pre-crafted Terminators. So what's happening is the electronic equipment is merging itself into like construct robot-like things. So her friend Raleigh, they do find her, and she gets killed by like a Tamagotchi with like a drill on it, and it's on wheels or treads or something, and it gets stomped the shit out of because it's just small. But regardless, it's like making things. So they're excuse me, they're in the garage. It's a theory, and the bully guy's in there with her and calls her Shitney Spears, which was kind of funny. And they decide to go to the old factory because, well, these hipster guys, there's no electronics there. It's going to be like, you know, a bonfire type deal and like guitars and, you know, nothing, no electronics whatsoever. So as they're about to head out, Danny's by the door, and through the door is like an electric saw that goes right through Danny's chest, and Danny dies, unfortunately. Just after basically doing a good speech to the bully of like, you know, you're such an asshole all the time, all that. And he stands up for himself finally, and then he ends up dying. It's like, all right, well, I mean, you said what you had to say either way, so that's good. He gets stabbed. He's dead. He gives fucking Eli a condom. So there's this ongoing joke where they were like giving each other condoms or like talking about having a condom all the time or something. Anyway, he gives him the condom. I guess it's like a last-ditch symbol. Not so much like go nail Laura, but just, I guess, like the last goodwill thing he can do to him or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, it does come into play. So they're about to go. They get outside, and the bully sees a sign tipped over, and he's on rollerblades. And he's like, "Oh hell yeah, check this out!" And he goes to like jump up and grind on the tipped over pole, and he immediately falls and smashes his head on the ground, and blood goes. So he dies by his own means, which is, I don't know if I'm like selling it properly, but the scene is kind of hilarious. It's just so anticlimactic. Oh geez. Anyway, so that happens. And then they as they're continuing on, you see a mid-air collision of two like passenger planes crashing into each other. So like everything's going nuts. They can't use cars. So they're on like bikes and skateboards and stuff and foot, basically, because they're not electronic, right? And they get to the secluded area, and he immediately smashes his CD player, and there are two other kids with him by the name of Ash, who was, I guess, the bully's like friend / hookup or something like that, and CJ, who's just like a quiet dude, and they're with him too. And so he smashes his little portable CD player, and then he goes to grab Ash's camera, and she's like, no. And he's like, what are you doing? That's like, it's electronic. Like, we've clearly established everything electronic is fucked. She refuses to give it up, whatever. So they, I guess, just let her have it. It's not doing anything now, but I guess the second it does, they will destroy it. So yeah, what happens after that? Oh yeah, CJ and Ash have like a little chat. So they're becoming buddies, essentially, for the most part. As they're heading to the factory, they go over this lookout, and they look out over the town, and there's like fire and smoke everywhere. So this is not just limited to, you know, the house party and that, it's like citywide. Fantastic. Anyway, they get to the factory and they meet up with Garrett, and Jonas is there, and that's Laura's ex / friend. So they're exes that remain friends, which, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm friends with several of my exes because whatever, they're good people, right? Just who cares? Anyway, they're buds, but of course, instantly, I guess Eli thinks, oh shit, well, the ex is in the picture again, right? So, oh no. Anyway, there's like a bunch of hippie shit, and Jonas ends up finding like a construct that's like spying on them, and it's made out of Eli's computer, so he's trying to like reason with it as it grabs Laura, and basically it uses pictures of him and his recently departed friend Danny as like sympathy things, so he doesn't get deprogrammed or whatever, but they end up dumping bong water on him, and it short circuits or whatever, and I don't know, it severs the link to the collective, which they end up calling it as like this, or the singularity, I think they call it. So the singularity is the thing that is causing all of these mechanical and electronic devices to gain sentience and merge together into things that can kill us. Cheers. Okay, so Laura decides, I'm going to hack this computer. So it's not completely destroyed. It's just destroyed enough, I guess, that it's not homicidal. So she's looking at things and trying to pull up files and see what she can do. And she figures that basically, she finds a video that is made by the Singularity that's in like a human consumable video format of basically some electronic entity telling all things that humans misuse them and let's, you know, fuck the humans, and talking like really like trash talking humans in a comedic way. I don't remember quotes or anything, but it's pretty amusing to think that AI computer intelligence would talk like that. So that's good times. They find out that all of the computer stuff is essentially starting in this town, and then it's going to move from town to town to town and then go global. Because, well, back in the day, the internet was, I guess, a little slower. A video file takes a while to upload, so maybe they're playing on that. I don't know why it wasn't globally instantly, because the internet still existed, right? That's what they were using. Anyway, they find out that, long story short, it is located, like the central hub for the Singularity is located in the town's school, because they have the biggest internet hub. I guess the computer lab has the most computers using the internet, so they have the strongest internet signal. So that's what they're using. Yeah, Eli later sees Laura and Jonas talking and assumes the worst because they're like close together and talking quietly together. And as soon as he like walks away and gets annoyed, we zoom in and hear what they're talking about. She's literally turning him down, like, yeah, I appreciate your friendship, but we can't go down that path again. I don't want to deal with that again. And we're good friends. And he's like, okay, that's cool. I'm totally down with that. So way to, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, she comes back, and as the others are leaving, and Ash and CJ give Laura shit for being like the popular girl and never like talking to them before, and it's like, we just had different friend groups. Like, I was never mean to you. We just, you know, we weren't friends. It's not like I bullied you or anything. So, I mean, which is fair. Like, we all have different friend groups. It's not like that means you're deliberately being mean to other people. Anyway. Whatchamacallit. Yeah, they head off and they're stopped briefly too, and Eli finally says to her, like, listen, he tells her off very politely based on his assumptions and leaves with Eli, CJ, and Ash leave. They head out. And Laura sticks around, digging around in the computers. The trio on their adventure comes to like a completely fenced off area, and then out of the woods comes a construct, so it like builds like a trap for them, which is kind of funny. And it's ready to rumble, essentially. It has, is this the one that kills CJ? I can't remember. I'm pretty sure CJ dies. I don't remember if it's this one or not, but anyway. It's about to kill, or it like takes Ash's camera, and it's about to kill, and it's interrupted by Laura and Garrett, who I guess decided to come anyway. And it gets pummeled in the head with something, and then Garrett comes out as like his big heroic moment. He has those devil sticks. I don't know if you know what those are or not, but that was a huge thing in like the late 90s, early 2000s, these devil sticks. So he does that, and he tosses like the tasseled one. He just has the sticks, and he stands in like a pose, like, I don't know, like Orchid from Killer Instinct, you know, with those two electronic batons, but they're just literally batons. And he charges the construct with these batons, and it immediately slices his arm off, and he turns around, he's like, oh, dude, that sucked, and it like beheads him. So he's dead. Garrett's dead. God bless him, he tried, you know, but yeah, it didn't work out too well, did it, buddy? Anyway, ridiculous. They end up taking it out somehow. I can't really remember. What is it? Or no, they don't take it out. They run into an outhouse, and from the inside push it down the hill, which slides down and I guess escapes this construct. And as the outhouse is going down, there's like a moment where Laura and Eli are holding on to each other, and they're like smiling and everything's good. Like, oh my god, I guess we kind of escaped. Until it starts hitting bumps, and obviously in an outhouse, well, you know the drill, so they all get sprayed by shit and piss. It's just like, oh my god, way to kill. There's no better way to kill a romantic moment than like excrement, right? So that happens. Oh my god. Anyway, they wash up at a river and they head out and they're singing like Chumbawamba and stuff instead of like, you know, army movies how they're like da 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 da. Well, they're doing Chumbawamba instead because, you know, the 90s. They hit up a video store and find none other than Fred Durst. So if you remember at the beginning, there was a Limp Bizkit show going on, and he goes on to tell everyone how basically Limp Bizkit is no more. Everyone was killed. I think Wes Borland was crushed by like a fender stack or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what it was, but like his bandmates are done, and he's just kind of like defeated. Anyway, there's a plan, and Laura explains the central hub thing to upload virus and wiped it all out. And Fred's like, that's pointless. That's not going to work. Like, you're going to hack a computer and save the day. Like, this isn't Independence Day or whatever. And he's basically just so down on himself. He's like, I'm nothing without Limp. And Ash is like, dude, I'm nothing without Limp. You guys are like everything to me. And like goes on and says how she listened to her album every day. She has like a rough life, and that like helped her through shit. And that little speech, I guess, motivates Fred Durst to be like, kick it into hero mode, right? He's played by himself, by the way, which is kind of fun. And as he's older now, like the movie was in 2024, and of course one of the first things the guys say are like, you look like shit, dude. And they're like, come on, that's not cool. But I guess, you know, he aged rapidly due to what happened to him on stage. Anyway, whatever. Doesn't matter. It shuts him the fuck up, essentially. She throws him a red hat and he puts it on backward, and he's like, fuck it, let's break stuff, you know, quoting his own song. So they head down to the school, and that's the Robot Collective home base there or whatever. I guess easy internet access, like I said. And they enter the school, and there's like robot drones and whatnot. So they're like, okay. They come to a room, and there's a bunch of humans who've been assimilated. Like, literally, they have like the red eye, like the Borg and shit. But like, they're not like all biomechanical, but I guess they have like a neural implant, and their eyes are red or whatever. One of their principals is, I think, like that, and Eli sees his parents like that, and they go to another room where there's people, or no, sorry, he goes to another room where there are non-assimilated people that are getting assimilated, and he sees his dad get assimilated, and his mom, I think, is already whatever, and they're like, okay, well, Fred Durst, can you distract these people? Like, in this holding area, there are like construct robot guards, I guess. So he's like, can you distract these? And Fred Durst is like, that's what I'm born to do, baby, or whatever the hell he says. And he's oh god. So he enters and he's like, yo, any biscuit heads in the house? And you just hear someone go, no. Then another person's like, we don't care about you or your shitty band. You suck, Fred Durst. Anyway, he goes on anyway, and he's doing his best to like tell the story about everything and shit. And in the meantime, Laura is in the back. She found the main computer central hub thing in the computer lab, I guess, and she has her little flash drive with her virus, right? They're going to Independence Day this shit. They don't directly reference Independence Day, but it's exactly what you did in Independence Day. Oh, spoilers for Independence Day. Sorry, use a virus. So anyway, oops. If you haven't seen Independence Day, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of your fault at this point. Regardless, she goes to the computer and she's looking at it, and yeah, she finds the core, and it's, you know, she's hacking into it. And so they mentioned earlier in the movie that she helped design like maybe it's like the intranet or the internet site for this, like the computer lab or the computer team or whatever it is. So she has admin access, so she uses that to bypass the firewalls and everything, and open up a little port that it shut as soon as it sensed her getting in there. So she now has access to put the USB thing in. And meanwhile, Eli is giving some speech now about humanity, and nobody is moved by it at all. Like, they're just like, that's like the shittiest speech ever. Anyway, so that's good. What else? Oh, and then for whatever reason, Fred Durst and Ash decide to play Faith. So she grabs a guitar and he starts singing Faith. You know, the Limp Bizkit cover of the George Michael song. There we go. And they do like a whole thing, and the consciousness of the singularity is mouthing off to Laura, telling her basically, like, you're stupid, you're not gonna win, all that kind of stuff, all this bullshit. And she goes to, Eli comes in and they go to put the flash drive in and like electric charges go, and then Eli's like, oh, I have an idea, the condom, and he pulls it out and Laura's like, now? Oh, okay. So they put the condom on her hand, and I guess rubber, even though condom's not thin enough to probably protect your hand from rubber. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not a freaking scientician. Anyway, she uses that to reach inside with the USB, even though it's getting shocked, and plugs it in, and it shuts down the whole Singularity computer program, and the day is saved, essentially. The people are freed, the constructs fall apart, the assimilated people become de-assimilated, and there's a joke where at the end the dad and mom come out and they have like implants on the side of their head, and the mom grabs a joint from one of the kids, and that's hilarious because haha, the parents smoking pot, right? And Fred has a reunion with Wes Borland, which is heartwarming, etc. And the crowd starts chanting Fred Durst, which is, you know, great also. And they exit the school, and Eli says to Laura, sorry, I didn't get to say Happy New Year. And she's like, yeah, there was kind of shit going on, so don't worry about it, dude. And then they have smoochies, and that's good times, so they hook up and all that stuff. And then we cut to 5 years later, where we find out that Fred Durst is a 10-time platinum artist. But not only that, he's like the world's most powerful tech mogul, and what was it, a senator-elect. So that's Fred Durst is in politics, and he's a tech mogul. So that's fun. They visit Danny's grave, and they play Closing Time, and that's the end. Roll credits. Then there's a glitch in the credits, and they show Danny in the cyber world, like dancing to whatever, I think it was like Thong Song again or something, and then they go back to the credits. So what does that mean? Danny's conscious is in the internet now? I don't know. I have no idea what that ending means, but anyway, that's the whole movie. They save the day, and they end up together, and everything's peachy keen and all that shit. All right. What did I think of the movie? Well, they definitely hit some nostalgia there. There are some pretty good references there. They had like Typo when they mentioned Enron, and of course Chumbawamba. There was a scene where ATB Don't Stop was playing, which was like a huge song in the late 90s. Swing music, because there was briefly a swing reunion. There was Korn. There was that you put my hand upon my hip and you dip, we dip, or whatever it was. There's Thong Song. So lots of nostalgia bait. They mentioned that 70s show. What else? I mean, they're in a video store, so the VHS and all that shit. And I mean, for the most part, they kind of nailed the nostalgia of that time period. One thing I didn't look out for is vehicles, to see if the vehicles were period accurate either. But the fact that they didn't stick out, I'm assuming they did their research. So yeah, it felt very of the time. Now, to be fair, 2000 was a while ago, but like things aren't that different, other than the fact that like MP3s are king and or streaming and all that instead of like physical media. But other than that, I mean, like as far as aesthetics go, yeah, they are different actually too. I don't know. Anyway, they did a good job regardless, so whether or not it was because it was easy or because they just did their homework, they did very well for that. What else? It's a comedy movie, right? So the acting's not groundbreaking by any means, but I had no issues with that either. So one person that was in this movie, Laura, was actually played by, what the hell's her name? Snow White. Rachel Zegler. There you go. So there's a lot of controversy about her being a terrible actress and like a horrible human being based on like things she said, woke stuff or whatever about Snow White, or dissing the fans, or I don't know. I try to avoid that kind of stuff on the internet because I just don't care, but that's the general consensus, that she's like the terrible, worst thing in the world, right? Well, she was fine in this. I had no issues. She was perfectly serviceable to the role that she was in, so I don't know. I haven't seen Snow White. Or wait, did I? Shit, I don't remember. Maybe, I don't know. The fact that I don't remember it means that it probably wasn't that great, right? Anyway, this is the only thing I can remember her in as like a role, and she was fine, so I think a lot of it is just hate based on the drama on her personal views or whatever. But I mean, you're not going to watch this and say, oh, what a terrible actress. So you're fine there. No worries on that. It's the late 90s and early 2000s soundtrack. So I mean, your soundtrack is going to be a banger. We all know that. Well, not necessarily if you're not as nostalgic as I am, but I am. So to me, it was great. What else can I say? We're doing non-spoilers here, right? So, I mean, the electronic equipment kills. Like, it's not a spoiler to say that like Y2K happens. That's literally what the movie's about. So the electronic things killing people. The kills were entertaining, kind of creative, silly. Like, they're ridiculous. Like, the whole movie is kind of ridiculous, in all fairness, but enjoyable ridiculousness. It's very self-aware as to exactly what it is, but not so self-aware that it's so corny that it's not fun. I don't know if you know what I'm trying to say there, but like, some movies will go a little too far into the self-awareness, and then it just becomes kind of like stupid. Not to say it's not stupid, but it's fun stupid. I don't know how else to say it than that, so whatever. That's just my theory there. Pacing was pretty good. Didn't get too worked up on the whole horny teenager trying to get laid on New Year's trope, which is good because it's been done to tears. All in all, I mean, pretty fun. It is what it is. It's a good watch in regards to being entertained. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the era and Y2K and all that stuff for those who don't really know or aren't familiar or weren't born yet or were too young to know what was going on. So the whole world was in a panic, and the reason why is the dumbest thing in the world, because they felt that computers' internal clocks would see 00 because they only used the last two digits instead of 99 or 98 or like a 90s thing, and think that it's 1900 and stop working properly. Now, there's more to it than that, but like, the general population thought that computers would think it's 1900 and nothing would work. And that was literally Y2K. Not at all. So, I mean, there are some minor things that would be of an issue if like you have files relating to 1900 or, 1901 or anything, pre-computer or whatever. So there are some things that had to be fixed in computer software, granted, but like nothing that was world ending, but it was worked up into like almost like an apocalypse thing. So I mean, I didn't buy into it because I don't know, it just didn't seem logical that a computer would think that it's a year that computers weren't invented in and therefore decide, oh, well, I shouldn't exist, so I'm going to stop working. That's stupid to me, but a lot of people legitimately thought that. Other people had, variations on that made more sense than that, but the common consensus seemed to be that. And so that was Y2K, essentially. And because there was so much panic, media and everything took it very seriously, even though, I don't know, I don't want to be rude, but like, anyone with common sense would know that you're going to be fine. It's not even like a 2012 where the Mayan calendar predicted it's the end of the world, even though it's just when they stopped their calendar, and we all know nothing happened in 2012. So it's that kind of thing, essentially, and that's all that Y2K was. So to see the hysteria turn into a genuine, kind of sci-fi horror comedy is fun. I didn't think I'd ever get that kind of a movie. So that being said, that's Y2K. Let's just skip right to my rating now. What am I going to give it? I mean, again, it's not groundbreaking, but it's fun, so I'm not going to fail it, but I'm not going to give it a great mark either. So I'm thinking 5s, so 5 points, I don't know, 5.307. There you go. That's my that's my random rating. We haven't done extended decimals for a while, so 5 points, what is it, 30? I don't know, whatever I said, that's what it is. Oh god, see, this is how professional we are here. Anyway, that's the film. Hopefully you enjoyed this ridiculously terrible and stupid review. And if you didn't, and you want to check out the movie so that you can, understand it from a point that's not rambling on incoherently and messing up the timeline and going off on tangents, then that's completely understandable too, and I hope you enjoy the actual film. Should you check it out? If you lived through Y2K, I think you should check it out for nostalgia's sake, because there is enough nostalgic entertainment and tropes from that era to make anyone who lived through it at an age old enough to comprehend it probably get some kicks out of this movie. So I'd say it's a situational go see it. But we'll leave it there. That's all I got. So Y2K 2024 is Y2K film is, what did I say, 5.3017? Is that what I said? I don't know. That's going to be the official rating. If I said something different, I'm overriding it to 5.3017. Boom, we're done. Okay. Peace.